The overall success rate of drug discovery and development is probably inferior to 1%.
Wow.
And at Iktos, that's where we stand out. Not only have we developed superior generative AI technologies, but we also have found ways to automate their synthesis on a robot to speed up the process and make it more cost effective. So this is really, this is really our differentiation. And we put this to the service of drug discovery for challenging targets.
Can you break down what Iktos does and the way it combines differing parts of the drug discovery landscape?
There are many AI companies who focus on identifying new promising targets. We don't do that. We start from known targets. We do predictive modeling using AI, we do generation of molecules using AI, and we run the cycles until we identify compounds which are good enough to be able to succeed in further preclinical and clinical development, and then our job is done.
What's your crystal ball telling you in terms of where AI and drug development will move over the coming years?
I think where the next frontier lies is more in being able to increase the success rate of 1% and also reducing the overall duration of the process. It takes 8 to 10 years, from initial, phase 1 to NDA.
What's the next step in terms of honing and refining that offering so it really addresses everything that you want it to?
It's a very hard question to answer because...
Hello and welcome to Leading Beyond the Lab. Today I have the pleasure of being joined by Yann Gaston-Mathé, CEO and co-founder of Iktos, one of the companies that are pushing the frontier of AI-driven drug discovery. Yann founded Iktos in 2016 with a bold idea. If AI can design molecules quicker, then Iktos can discover medicines much more productively too. Since then, Iktos has built a powerful platform combining generative AI, chemistry and automation to accelerate the design, make, test cycle. The company now partners with pharma and biotech companies around the world and just recently signed off on a $1 million collaboration with Servier. Today we learn how Iktos have turned AI and drug discovery to developing real-world medicines. Firstly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'd like to start this off by understanding in your own words what problem you think that Iktos are solving.
Well, essentially, the problem that Iktos is solving or is contributing to solve is really the intrinsic inefficiency of drug discovery concerning, the small molecules. Because, as you know, there are several modalities for drugs. Small molecules is really like the dominant modality, and it's kind of the productivity of this process has remained pretty small, pretty low, and the costs are high, the success rates are low, and it takes an awful amount of time to deliver some drug candidates, for a novel target, and that's what we're trying to improve. Yeah.
It's incredible. 90% of drugs fail. It's quite
90% of drugs fail in the clinic.
In the clinic.
Many more projects actually failed before that. And overall, I would say, the overall success rate of drug discovery and development is probably inferior to 1%.
Wow.
And, considering the fact that you're going to invest so much in drug candidates to take them in preclinical studies and clinical trials, and the success rate also is low, you'd better do a good job, in the upstream process of delivering the drug candidates. So that's what we are, committed to doing at Iktos. Yeah.
And what is it that Iktos does differently to other AI companies targeting drug discovery?
Well, AI companies have, focused, and that's what you would expect from an AI company, on developing digital technologies that help in computational drug design. So they are able to predict, binding affinities on target, or to predict biological properties of compounds, or to potentially generate molecules that hopefully would behave well in biological assays, but that's only part of the job. And to be successful, you also need to be very efficient and cost effective and fast at making those compounds in the lab and actually generating the experimental data. Because one thing which everybody knows in this job is that whatever computational technology you have, you will still need to make compounds in the lab and test them, learn from the data to generate better compounds and iterate and do so on and so forth. And that you need to actually generate experimental data on compounds to be able to optimize those compounds towards a potential drug candidate. And therefore, it's critically important not to limit yourself to the digital world, but also to have solutions to improve the overall workflow, including the wet lab. And at Iktos, that's where we stand out. We have, not only have we developed superior generative AI technologies enabling to generate very nice and promising molecules, but we also have found ways to automate their synthesis on a robot, enabling to benefit from the power of lab automation to speed up the process and make it more cost effective. So this is really, this is really our differentiation. And we put this to the service of drug discovery for challenging targets. One thing that we are seeing, in the industry now is that as soon as a target, has been cracked, I would say, by a pharma or biotech, a drug discovery company, then you have lots of, Chinese and other companies from all over the world
very quickly
rushing in to generate analogs and to kind of,
Me too.
that generate Me Too compounds.
So Me Pluses, as I heard.
So that's all and good. But then you have lots of very promising targets, in terms of the biology, which are very hard to crack. These are the difficult targets, the hard to drug targets, the undruggable targets. And that's where the real challenge lies, is to find ways to drug those difficult targets. And that's where we believe with our technology, combining the power of AI and computational technologies with this capacity to make and test compounds very fast, generate experimental data, learn from those data, we can really make a difference.
Yeah, and when you cast your mind back to when you founded the company in 2016, what was the inflection point in your career where you thought, I need to build this business to address this problem?
That was a stroke of luck, clearly.
The start of the line.
No, so essentially, the first part of my career was working in big companies. I started working in pharma in France at Servier, then did some work as a strategic consultant in Capgemini Consulting, very, very big group. Then went back to industry, working at Ipsen, another French pharma. All those companies were big companies, and I liked it, and I learned a lot, and that's what also enabled me to understand this business essentially. But then after some time, I was kind of feeling the urge to do something different with my life than to continue building a career in big companies. So I definitely had it in me to be some kind of an entrepreneur, although at the time it was pretty fuzzy. Initially, my project was more to develop new drugs, especially in oncology, and actually have made several attempts at creating new companies, new biotechs for developing new therapeutics in oncology. But then, I also needed to make a living, and I was essentially making a living as a consultant, as a freelance consultant, and that's how actually I was lucky to meet the two other co-founders of Iktos, Quentin, who's a chemist, Nicolas, who's an AI scientist. And they had started developing this new generation of technology for drug discovery, what's now called generative AI for molecular drug design. They told me about their idea, their plans, what they had started developing, the potential, and that got me really excited because I thought, hey, there's something here, because I had been working in the industry for many years, and I had seen how difficult it was, to be able to find the good compounds, the right compounds. And what they were kind of, the new concept, this idea of using AI to identify the ideal molecule was so powerful. It really got me passionate and decided to team up with them and help them create Iktos.
Yeah, it stands out actually that you worked for Gemini management consultancy. You'd worked in data, so there's a real inflection there and of kind of differing expertise.
Yes, of course. Across my career, I've worked in R&D, I've worked in IT, I've worked in data science.
The perfect hybrid.
So yeah, I was kind of I had a different set of skills that proved useful.
Did you ever worry about leaving the traditional pharma world and what that would mean for you in this kind of entrepreneurial and dynamic and new setting with where embracing things like AI?
Of course, I did. You never leave a big company without being a little scared of what's ahead of you. But then actually, when the time of creating Iktos, came, I was already making a living as a freelance consultant, and I was happy about my freedom to operate at the time. I was dealing with the realities of my business, and I was doing okay. But then I was longing for more. I was longing for a real entrepreneurial adventure, and Iktos was really what enabled me to give real life to this project I had in me.
So can you break down what Iktos does in terms of its platform and offering? That's and the way it combines differing parts of the drug development or the drug discovery landscape, and how it differentiates.
Yeah, definitely. So definitely. What needs to be understood about Iktos is we are really focused on small molecule drug discovery. So we are a small molecule drug discovery company leveraging AI and robotics to essentially improve the process, to make it faster, more efficient, more successful. And what that means is that we don't explore new targets. There are many AI companies who focus on identifying new promising targets by analyzing, by essentially mining all this huge amount of biological and patient data, omic data, which are now made available. And thanks to the new technology, they are able to identify some very promising new biological mechanisms, which can be then tackled, in drug discovery and development. So we don't do that. We start from known targets. We want to start from a target which is defined at the molecular level. And then we apply our platform. Again, we do predictive modeling using AI. We do generation of molecules using AI. We do synthesis and testing of compounds using our lab automation AI technology. And we run the iterative design, make, test, analysis cycles, until we identify compounds which are good enough to be able to succeed in further preclinical and clinical development, and then our job is done. We kind of hand it over to our partner, our customer, whatever the case, or we find new partners, new investors to continue the development of good compounds, good molecules that we found thanks to our platform.
And is that mostly with larger pharma or biotech companies?
We are very open, and we have collaborated with all different kinds of companies, in the past. Our more recent deals are with significant, pharma companies. Servier is a very, very established player, large mid-sized pharma company. Pierre Fabre is a very nice and significant mid-sized pharma companies. We are also collaborating with Ital Farmaco, also a mid-sized pharma company, Italian pharma company. In the past, we've worked with very large pharma such as J&J and many others, and Merck and others. So we have experience working with the very big ones. We have also worked with small academic groups, small biotechs. So we are very open. What we are is we are a company which really longs for partnerships, because we understand that we contribute to a very specific part in the value chain of drug discovery and development, and we need to unite. We need to join forces with other companies to create success, essentially. So we are really a company which wants to grow through partnerships.
And I saw that you acquired Synsight. How does that expand your capabilities?
Yeah, so what we have become convinced of, over the years is that, the value, in the end is in the targets. If you are able to bring a new compound for a target for which, as I was saying before, 10 or 15 compounds are already in the pipeline of preclinical or clinical development.
Yeah.
It's not going to be very interesting for anyone. However, if you
It's
are
not
able,
blue ocean thinking.
exactly,
Yeah.
if you are able to bring new candidates for targets which are difficult targets, and which are considered to be promising targets in terms of the biological mechanisms, which can bring really significant benefits. Then you create much more value. Potential in terms of potential benefit to patients. That will also translate into market value, and you will trigger more interest from the pharma partners. So Synsight is a company which had developed a very nice and unique screening technology for targets such as protein-protein interactions, which are notoriously difficult. And which can also be applied in the context of targeted protein degradation, such as the molecular glues, the PROTACs. And we became convinced that this technology, this assay they have built, will enable us essentially to create more differentiation, not only through the value of our AI and robotic technology for chemistry, but also in the world of targets. So definitely this was a very nice opportunity for us to start building a portfolio of drug discovery programs, targeting those challenging targets, leveraging at the same time our AI and the value of the Synsight platform.
And how does that then interact with the lab automation?
Well, it's a natural extension because the lab automation that we have started building before Synsight was really focused on the automation of synthesis, which is actually the most difficult part, the part that nobody else has cracked except Iktos until now. Meaning that, of course, there are robots which can which can run hundreds of reactions in parallel.
Wow.
But those robots are not, they cannot be used in the context of medicinal chemistry projects, because in medchem projects, you need to make compounds which are all unique. They are all different from one another. And it's very, very difficult to automate the execution of synthesis of compounds which are very, very different from one another, because they will all require different reactions. They will all require different catalysts, different solvents, different starting points. And that's, essentially there is almost no benefit in running it on a robot rather than running it traditionally on the bench. But we found a way to do it, and that's where we really are unique. So that was really where we made our breakthrough, I would say, in terms of leveraging AI for automation of synthesis. But then, of course, once you have the compounds, it's only the first step. Then you need to purify them, analyze them, and test them. And you also want, of course, to build automation for the purification, analysis, and testing, because that will enable you to be much faster and cost efficient than if you have to essentially use the traditional way of doing things. So acquiring Synsight was again a step in that direction, because MT Bench, the Synsight platform, also have some very nice automation built in. But it's something we are still working at, to complete the scope of our platform. We are currently introducing purification analysis, and later we will add on, some automated testing on top. Yeah.
So I was about to ask, what's the next step in terms of honing and refining that offering so it really addresses everything that you want it to?
Yeah, definitely. We still need to complete, the chemistry part. We want to make it, we want to expand the scope of the chemistry we can run on our automated platform by essentially bringing in new equipment, new hardware, develop new chemical transformations. The more we add chemical transformations, and the more we are able to to sample the vast chemical space. So that's definitely very important. Then we also want to bring in the capabilities to synthesize compounds which will require 5, 6, 7, 8 steps of chemistry, because as you make progress into the drug discovery programs, you need to synthesize more complex compounds. And so far, our robots are only able to handle compounds which will require up to 3 steps of chemistry. So it's more suited for the early steps or the early stages of drug discovery. But of course, we are working to expand that on a day-to-day basis. And of course, our current priority is the integration of high-throughput purification, analysis, and also we will introduce automated testing so that we can have a fully digitalized and integrated workflow which requires minimal human intervention, so that we can really have a full closed-loop platform, And the idea at some point is that the AI can become more and more and more efficient. This is a self-learning system. As we generate data, the AI learns to essentially make better decisions, deciding what are the best compounds to make, but also how to define, how to choose the recipe which will translate into the highest success rate, the highest yield for making a given compound. And as we generate experimental data on the platform, we are training our AI to be better at its job, essentially.
So with all of that, and it's obviously very complex, and you're addressing a problem which is of inefficiency and wastage of resources to focus people's energies on the right productive behaviours when it comes to drug development and discovery. Now, when you, is there like a metric or is there a number that you believe you save in terms of percentage from the costs from your involvement?
That's the $1,000 question.
Yeah, I'd love to know. Do you have like an idea of what you think it is?
Yeah, it's a very hard question to answer because all projects are different, all targets are different, all chemical series are different, and there are many reasons why at some point you can you can waste time and you can get delayed and it can cost more than expected and so on and so forth. It's so multifactorial. But essentially what we know, our goal is to be able to deliver a drug candidate in 2 years, essentially, starting from scratch, starting from a target. And this is...
Which would normally take how long on average?
Right now, it's more like 3 to 5 years in average, when everything goes approximately okay. Meaning that when you run into a serious hurdle, then maybe you never get there because you just decide to drop the project. So yeah, 3 to 5 years is more or less the metric. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask and get your opinion on is could a pure play software company do what you do, and what would be the main blockers?
Well,
so without building the laboratory infrastructure and things like that.
Yeah, of course. So many AI companies, they think they can run everything using external CROs. So they traditionally, typically, they do their stuff and they have the compounds made and tested in China. And Chinese CROs are very good and very cost effective, very fast. So it works up to a point, but then there are limitations because one of the very big benefits of the platform that we have developed is that we are able to generate molecules which are at the same time very promising in terms of their biological properties, but also easy to make, and then we can actually make tens of those compounds in parallel very fast to generate the experimental data, which enable us to learn from those initial designs and generations. And this is something which, to my knowledge, others are not able to do. So the limitations of the traditional ways of doing things is that you either limit yourselves to screening databases, virtual databases of molecules. So you limit yourselves in terms of potential starting points, or you have to make much more complex molecules because generative AI technologies out there, they are not very good at generating easy to make compounds. So the compounds might be very, very complex.
How long do you think that will change?
Or they would start from physical screening, which is also quite limited in terms of the size. So what we are able to do here is we have invented, I would say, a new paradigm in terms of hit discovery for difficult targets with this way of, again, generating virtual molecules which are in no database that you would find, which are totally novel, but at the same time that we can make very fast thanks to our robot. And that's where we are, pretty unique.
Yeah, it is very unique. And how is the competition from the United States and companies over there? How do they fare when compared with what you do?
Yeah, it's hard to say because everybody. I mean, they don't usually communicate with a level of detail on what they are doing. We don't see that they are taking the same approach, because when we talk to big pharma companies, including US ones, they keep telling us that what we have is unique. So we don't think that we are exactly competing in the same space, and I think there's room for several AI companies. So I think competition is kind of more indirect than direct. Yeah.
I know. I was saying before. So the search side of ARTO, we do a lot in clinical development, and a lot of the early stage companies we work with, they've basically been told by investors that unless you have AI infused in your business in some way, shape or form, or even if you're not a platform party, it's very much more difficult to generate enough investment because it's such a clear future proofing of the business. Where do you think AI will go? What's your crystal ball telling you in terms of where AI and drug development will move over the coming years?
Well, I think we are trying to solve a very, very, very difficult challenge. The improvement of R&D, of pharmaceutical R&D is a very challenging task, and there is a lot that needs to be done, and we don't exactly know where this will take us.
What's your crystal ball saying there?
Yeah. So essentially, what we've seen so far and where we are making progress is we are making progress at identifying promising new targets with AI, and we are also making a lot of progress in terms of speeding up and making the actual discovery of drug candidates more efficient, faster, more successful. With companies like Iktos and others. I think where the next frontier lies is more in kind of making drug development itself more successful. When you have a given compound targeting a given target, predicting in which patients the drug will be at the same time beneficial and safe. Selecting the right patient populations, optimizing the clinical trial designs, being able to increase the success rate of 1%.
Massive. It's tangible,
I mean, there's room to grow, right? and also reducing the overall duration of the process, which is still awfully slow. It takes 8 to 10 years, from initial phase 1 to NDA.
Unless it's COVID.
Unless it's COVID, and it's about vaccines, which is a little different.
Yeah, that's true as well. So when you evaluate these partnerships, which are obviously a massive highlight of your success, big congrats, by the way, on the recent partnership with Servier.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was really a landmark agreement for Iktos. A multi-target strategic partnership over several years that really enables to prove off our value over a long period of time, and building the trust and earning the trust is what we really aspire to do.
Had you worked with them previously?
We had worked with them, but like many years before. So
Okay.
it had been quite some time since our last collaboration. And it's essentially, Iktos was a different company. The platform was super different. That's what really, led them to consider this partnership. Yeah.
So when you evaluate these partnerships, how do you evaluate what the most? How do you decide and project how much value you can add?
Well,
I
essentially,
imagine there's a few things that you identify quite quickly.
of course, certainly, we won't enter into a partnership if we don't think that we can be successful, because we want to find a context where there would be value for both partners. So for us, it's very important that when we say yes, we believe that we have a reasonable chance of success. Of course, it's never certainty, because this is research, it's drug discovery, it's hard. But we think we can do a good job, and we can bring something new, something different, which will create value for the partner. So we start with what we call a feasibility analysis on at least the first target. So essentially the partner will come with their target. They will share whatever data they have, what they are trying to accomplish, what would be the characteristics of the ideal compound to take into preclinical development. And we will look at the data available, and we will make our own analysis whether or not we think this is a good fit for the platform. And if that's the case, then we'll build a proposal.
Do you have any cultural nuances to when you work with clients, or does that not really become a consideration or need to be?
Yeah.
So say you're working with a French company versus a Japanese company versus an American company.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say so. We have experience working with all kinds of companies. We've had partnerships with European, French, but also European companies, with US companies, with Japanese companies. And essentially science is some kind of a universal language.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
And, everybody speaks English, after all. So.
Yeah, thank goodness for us. And so there's not, so what about in the ways that they work, so the practices?
Yeah, well, of course there are cultural differences, obviously, and, the way the way to handle a collaboration with the Japanese company would be different than with a American company or with a French company. But actually, many companies now are very much international. Typically, at Servier, we are working with a multinational team. Most of the team actually is based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, or actually in Boston.
Yes, yeah.
And but part of their team is French, and yeah, I think we are used to working in those multicultural environments.
Yeah, I'm interested how. So say you go to Servier, that's a significant commitment. You had to work with them for a few years. I'm really fascinated to understand. There must be a value concept that you've gone in, you've done your exploration and discovery work, and you said, right, we think that we can improve this by this, or save you this amount of money, or whatever. What are the anchor points that you drill down into when you go and propose your solution, if you like?
Well, I think what's important is that we want to be anchored in reality, meaning, we feel that in the field, many AI companies, but many companies in general, who talk to pharma companies, they tend to oversell what they can do, and I think that many scientists in the pharma companies, they are increasingly skeptical because they've heard the same stories all of their life. And you need to show proof. You need to be very concrete, and you need to again you need to speak a language which will make them feel confident that you can actually deliver what you're promising, meaning that they need to you need to make them understand exactly what you're going to do, how it's going to work, why it will work. And if they don't understand it, there's a lot of chance that they will at some point not be convinced, and so what we really want to do is at the same time get them excited in terms of what the platform can deliver.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to sell the story, of course. You need to sell the but it has to be anchored in reality. It has to be very down to earth, concrete, and they need to be convinced by the detailed proposal. So it's I would say that's what we are trying to do.
And with deals of those types of scale, I imagine suddenly resources become ramped up. How do you go about managing that?
What we do is we have our own internal projects. So when we start a new partnership, we kind of reallocate our resources so that we'll give priority to the partnerships and kind of reduce allocation of resource to the internal projects until we can hire and ramp up our resources. So we have some kind of we have some flexibility because we also have our own in-house discovery programs.
And so with that though, you often talk about, I've heard you talk about digital design and how it meets real world experimentation. So what in effect does AI-driven lab automation look like by comparison? For the listeners, if you like.
The first thing I want to say is that AI is not generating molecules in a vacuum.
Yeah.
AI is a tool in the hands of some very, very skilled experts who are medicinal chemists and computational chemists who are not only very good and experienced men of the art, but also who are trained and who are used to working using this new generation of tools which technology provides. And actually this is very, very important. You need to embrace as a medicinal chemist the new ways of working that are enabled by AI and which essentially enable you to make a better job essentially. And that's actually one of the challenges in pharma is that still today, many medicinal chemists they don't really change their ways of working, and of course AI technology is implemented, but the impact is pretty low because the adoption of the technology in day-to-day work is pretty low. So I think that one of the key differences, at Iktos and I guess in other AI companies is that our people, they live and breathe AI. So they, they do things in a different way, and they leverage the technology every hour of their day essentially. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is that because of the when I get to the execution, I mean to the from in silico to the wet lab to the synthesis, it's a very different way of doing things. Traditionally, a chemist will essentially plan the synthesis of the compound. They will order the materials. They will wait until everything is delivered or available. Then they will set up their reactions, and they will then run the reaction, monitor the reaction, and essentially a chemist is able to run 1 or 2 reactions in parallel, maybe up to 3 if they are very, very, very productive. And the process is very much, it's not very different from when you were doing chemistry in high school or maybe in university. It's pretty much the same, although the equipment is better and they have some software. But the way we are doing it is radically different. we have actually one operator of our robot and software is able to handle the synthesis of up to 100 compounds in parallel.
Yeah.
The software enables you to build a synthesis plan for 100 compounds in parallel, to order the building blocks for making those compounds, to manage the inventory, the logistics, and to execute the synthesis on the robot with minimal human intervention. So one person can handle one robot which can run again 100 reactions. So this is
exponentially
huge.
bigger.
Yeah. It's a difference. It changes the paradigm, and we believe that's really the future in terms of the way chemistry and drug discovery will be performed in the years to come. And we believe that our technology will increasingly be adopted by many companies, because it's kind of obvious the impact it can have on the productivity. At the level of the lab, and not only at the level of the drug discovery. Yeah.
What do you think are the biggest challenges that lay ahead for lab automation and these types of topics? Or particularly in relation to the infrastructure that you have to build?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of the what you need essentially to build is the software infrastructure, I would say. But I think with the development of AI, agentic AI, and so on and so forth, it's becoming easier and easier. So I don't think actually the challenge is that big, and I think this is a change that's going to come soon. Actually,
it's kind of happening, isn't it?
I think it's happening now. I think it's happening now, and I think that the brick that we have developed, which is this orchestration AI, enabling to essentially be the kind of operating system of a complex lab consisting of several types of equipment, but also technicians, lab operators, and so on and so forth, is a key piece here, which I think should bring value to many labs. Yeah.
So is there a risk then that the technology replaces the chemists, or does it kind of empower them?
I think it's an eternal debate. As soon as new technology comes in, people fear that their job, are going to be lost. But what happens is that actually jobs change, and the least interesting parts in the job are kind of done by the robot. But then you find other things to do which are more interesting, and kind of you focus on where you can bring more value. So I don't think it's
it's not better or worse.
It's a curse. I think that's the way it has. It's always the same story. It's been the same since the Industrial Revolution. So it's continuing. Yeah.
That's the thing I always think about when I go into that fail-safe mode. It's almost human nature, isn't it, to be attracted to certainty.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But like you said earlier, coming out your comfort zone. But you were the hunger for entrepreneurship, so. In terms of the future of AI and drug discovery, looking ahead, 5-10 years, I know it's really hard, especially on the exponential hockey stick curve that AI is on. What do you think the future of drug discovery and drug development holds, and what will be the kind of the main things that you'll think will go away versus what will come in?
Well, as I was saying before, I think that I think AI in general is profoundly transforming drug discovery, and broadly speaking, including target discovery and validation and so on and so forth. That the key challenge remains in being able to essentially simulate or understand biology to a level which would essentially enable to predict, which compounds would be successful in clinical trials, how targeting a given target will impact, a specific disease in a specific patient, and so on and so forth. And I think that, I think that tackling this challenge is what will take us to the next level. Essentially, if you look at the current infrastructure, time it takes to take a drug to the market following the very long and expensive phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. That's super inefficient by design. If we find a way to do things differently, then it can really be game changing in terms of speed of bringing innovation to the market and bringing to any patient exactly what they need to handle their disease. So I think that would make a huge difference if we are able to get there. But that means really understanding the biology to a level which is still far away from what we are able to do right now. So I think that's where the real challenge.
Do you think there's a world where discovery is kind of exclusively delivered to by AI?
It's difficult to say. I think that it's a philosophical question whether or not, in a way, are we going to reach some kind of AGI or not? Meaning that is AI going to remain a tool in the hands of some very smart people and some very expert people, or is AI going to kind of be better than even the most skilled experts? I tend to stick to option one right now, until I see proof of the contrary. So I think that humans will still drive the process.
Yeah, it's my mind always goes to if you look at the conventional model of the single asset biotechs. Well, I suppose back in the day, R&D, I suspect, was driven by the big companies in the R&D departments. Then they realised that it was more productive, and you retained that dynamism in terms of your research and things like that in the smaller companies, and that become the kind of new model. And then those companies, the best ones, get acquired and things like that. And I'm just wondering if we're kind of ushering in a new age and how that's going to look longer term.
Yeah, I don't know. To be very honest.
Crystal ball question again.
No, it's an honest answer. I believe that pharma companies are very good at developing drugs and also marketing them and selling them, and they're kind of sitting on some kind of dominant position, and it's probably a good split of tasks between the biotechs focusing more on discovery and development and the pharma focusing more on market access and sales, and I'm not sure that's going to change anytime soon. It might. I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see how that space unfolds.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so after more than 2 decades in the industry, which you don't look old enough to have, by the way.
Actually, it's 3 decades, but...
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, even more so then. What still motivates you? You've taken on this entrepreneurial ambition. You've had a solid, you've had 2 or 3 careers in different industries. What still motivates you to do this? What's kind of keeping you going?
I think it's really the science and how we can contribute either to development of exciting new science and new technology, or contributing to drug discovery. This is really what is the driver ultimately. Make an impact essentially. And I'm excited when I see the new technologies that we have developed, or the new products. We also sell software. I'm pretty proud of the software that that have been developed by the team, by our teams. And when we when we get meaningful outcomes in drug discovery programs that we are conducting, that's you always want to see more. That's the most exciting part of the job. Yeah.
So my final question: what advice have you got as someone that's trodden the path of various different industries and looked at the intersection of them all? What advice would you have for aspiring scientists of tomorrow?
I think my advice would really be to to stay as close to the science as possible. Of course, as long as there's really a willingness and a passion about it, because I think that science can lead you to very, very great careers and success, and it's, and one should not aspire to to get more jobs which are more targeting business development, management, or whatever too early in their career. If they have the opportunity, the chance to continue staying close to the science, I think it's a fantastic. It's the most exciting job you can have, and you learn a lot, and you can have lots of opportunities to then be successful later in your career in other paths.
Is there any advice in terms of how they combine that with technology or stay abreast of?
Well, I think today I think that when you're in science, you are also in technology, and you're
true.
kind of you become an expert in technology because technology is kind of
by proxy
feeds on science. Science feeds on technology, and technology feeds on science. So there's a real strong synergy between both. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.